Hi everyone, it's Desiree, and I am here with day 16, and I thought this was just so adorable. You know, it's amazing what you can find when you dig into your stash. Just saying. So I found this adorable stamp set, and I know exactly why I purchased it, by Art Impressions, and it's by Bonnie Krebs, and it's called Santa Paws Set. And the reason why I bought this is because of the bottom image with the group of those little puppers there. There is a corgi in the picture. I am a huge fan of corgis, and I used to have one, Mr. Payne, for many years, and I still miss him every day. But I also do think that these images of these dogs are just absolutely precious. I am actually a dog and a cat lover. So I love my cat, but I do miss my little corgi. So I just thought they were so cute. And the one sitting there with the candy cane in his mouth and the hat over his eyes, I thought was just precious. So here we go. Again, videos are long. I tend to gab all the way through these with, also telling you what I'm doing. But I'm keeping everything in the video. I'm just kind of speeding it up. I want you to see the whole process. This way, if I do the voiceover and just speed this up, you still get to see the whole process, without the video being as long as it takes for me to make the card. Just saying. So I'm using my ink to stamp my image, and I combined two images. I have the ornament, which is separate, hanging from his hat. So I thought that was really cute. I'm going to use my colored pencils. This is the Amazon set. It's a 72 count set. And let me tell you what, guys, if you're looking for a set of colored pencils, these are really good at a good price point. These are very similar to Prismacolors. They have almost the same properties. Again, if you're interested in this, I do have an Amazon storefront. There's that link down below. Or just go to Amazon and search for Amazon Basics Colored Pencils, 72 count, and you will find them. So, and again, read more on them. So, I'm going to show you all the coloring. I really do speed this up. And I'm actually going to use the packaging as my guide for my coloring, for shading, and everything else. Colored pencils are my medium of choice. If this is the first time you're watching one of my videos, if not, you've heard me say this many times. They are my preference. Don't get me wrong, I love to try all kinds of mediums, but my colored pencils are what I gravitate to. I'm asked many times, what are my favorite colored pencils? For me, it's Prismacolor. That's where I started when it came to starting out in colored pencils. And I get a lot of questions when it comes to colored pencils, so I'll answer some of them here. I actually started, I love adult coloring books, and my favorite person in coloring books is Johanna Basford, I believe is her name. And I'm probably saying that wrong, and I'm leaning because I have them sitting out. But that I believe is her name. I love the way, I call them doodles. I love the way she draws. I love her inky creations, I believe is what she calls them. I just think they're adorable. And that's where I really started using colored pencils. Very long time now, of course. I was coloring with those prior to her coming out. I think she came out recently. And that's where I just practice. I don't worry about light source. I should. I just don't. I work my colored pencils like someone would with their alcohol markers. I put down my lightest color. And again, there's all kinds of different ways that people work with their favorite medium. But usually, especially if I'm working with an image like this, not a floral image, but usually I put down a light layer of my lightest color, then I come in with my darkest, I do the outline, then I come in with my mid, then I go back to the light, and then I come backwards. So I'm constantly reworking it. The paper that I love to color on, I like to have a cardstock with a tooth. I do not like to use my colored pencils on the Nina Crest Solar. I do not like to use it on any of those types of cardstock. What I really enjoy is watercolor paper, cold press, or Bristol paper, the rough side. I like a paper with a tooth. You can see what I'm also using is the packaging and their shading, where they're putting the shades on this little puppers as well. And again, use the packaging. That can help you get used to your light source. Now, usually whenever I do a light source, it always comes from the right down to the left. It's just a habit. But again, you can always have that same element as well. Is it always perfect and a perfect science for me? Absolutely not. Does it have to be? Absolutely not. Enjoy what you're creating. That is what's most important when you're creating. Have fun with it. Nothing is perfect. We're not Hallmark. I've said it before and I'll say it again. We're not Hallmark. But that's what our image looks like. Now, again, very, very basic coloring. I didn't even do anything to the white. I wanted to even leave that alone. No shading there. I'm adding a very soft shade to the ground just to ground the image. Now, this is going to sit inside of another die cut. But I'm also going to add some blue going around him again, just to give some shading. I didn't want to get into a whole scene building there because that just stresses me out. But just to add some color to the back layer. And again, nothing perfect. So now that our coloring's done, I'm pulling in my die set. Now this die set is by Obsessive Impressions. And it's called the Photo Card Frame, I believe. I've had this for a while. So I grabbed a piece of black cardstock and I'm going to, this die set came with the Polaroid frame and also 4 photo corners. So I don't know if any of you remember, you know, sometimes when we used to take photos, we used to just add 4 corners to it to put it into a photo album. Some of you may not remember those things. I do. Yes, I miss those ways. I think that looks cool. So yes, my plates are very well loved, as you can see. So I'm going to die cut these. I know my screen shakes a little bit here, but again, trying to keep everything in the video so that you can see how I processed through this. I'm going to die cut that frame 2 more times because I want that lifted up. I want that to have dimension for this area here. After I have that die cut, I will layer those together using my liquid glue. I am a fan of the liquid glue, whether it's and honestly, I really don't have a preference. You see me use a lot in my videos art glitter glue. I do like that glue. I also like the Tombow Mono. It is at a better price point. But I do also enjoy the Simon Says Tacky Craft and also the Tonic Studios. So you just don't, when it comes to your liquid adhesive, you want to make sure that it's not all water like an Elmer's glue. Not that you can't use it, you just need to use it very sparingly. The more you use that, the more your cardstock will warp. So very thin layers when you're using liquid cardstock, or liquid cardstock. Did I just say that? Oh my god, I did. Oh my god. Okay, liquid adhesive. So you can see I've got it layered. I've marked out the corners where I want to trim this image down so that it will sit just in the center of that frame. I'm just going to erase those corners just in case they're seen with my pencil. And again, this is Bristol cardstock, so I'm coming in with my sand eraser just to remove them a little bit more, even though my pencil has a white eraser to it. So I'm going to come around the edges just to give it some shading with my vintage photo. I know it's been a while. If ever, you know, we all have our staples that go in our crafting collection. Mine is definitely my vintage photo. It has to be that one item I must have on my desk. I'm a huge fan of it. I think it just adds a very unique touch. Now, what I also like, and some people, you know, it's funny when I love reading the comments, and when I use vintage photo on like light blues and pinks and everything, people are just, they're shocked. They're like, oh my God, you've dulled that down. It really doesn't. For me, in my opinion, it helps the piece to stand out, especially if I'm putting it on a pattern paper. And that's what I'm going to be doing with this image. It's going on some pattern paper that I have in my stash. I found a couple scraps. So to make that stand out, by just using a little bit of that vintage photo around the edge, it helps to frame and make it a true focal point so that it can stand out on its own. You don't necessarily have to put that in a frame as well, which is another way that you can set your cardstock apart. So with the four corners, I've added some double-sided tape, and I'm just setting it on each of the corners of the frame, but it's not completely on it. I do want them to hang off the edge, and you'll see why. So they're not completely. Now, of course, when I put the double-sided tape on, I put it towards more the outer edge. So I've really got to make sure that I press it down onto these corners. Now, I could have added some liquid adhesive in those areas where the tape wasn't, but I knew I'd be okay. I just needed to move slowly so that these pieces didn't go flying off, because they were. They were kind of unruly. They were kind of going all over the place. So once I had that set, again, still making sure that the pieces were ready, now I'm going to take that and I'm just going to lay that frame right on top, picking up that colored piece, and now I'm just going to make sure that it sits upside down, and I put a little bit of pressure down onto it for those corners. Here's the pattern paper that I grabbed, and to be honest, I don't even know what this is from. I believe this is from some pattern paper stacks that I found on Amazon. I don't even know. They're still available. I don't even know when I purchased them. So, yeah. But I just thought they were really cute. Again, they were an ivory tone, so it helped with that vintage photo. So now that I have them layered, and I've put them onto my standard A2 size card base, I'm now putting the focal point down onto the front. I'm using the end of a brush to really push those corners down so that when you see this, and the video's not going to pick it up, you can actually see the imprint of that frame that's underneath these corners that are there. And I love these corners. I use them sometimes in the journals that I make as well. And I'll use a craft, or I can use any color just to die cut them. So I'm going to set that aside now. And I'm going to stamp my image. Now, I fell in love with the sentiment, Merry Christmas from the dog. I thought it was great. I thought it said it all. Our fur babies, our puppies, our little ones. I call my cat a puppy too. Our little ones are our family. And that's how I look at them. And I know many people do as well. So why can't they send a card too? There was many times, and I do this with Max as well, when I do hand a Christmas card to somebody, I always do sign it from Des, Steve, and Max, and I draw a little tiny paw print next to Max. And that's what I'm doing around this sentiment. So I stamped it onto a piece of ivory cardstock, and I stamped it in black, but then I'm like, let's make a paw print. I gotta have a paw print. So I drew that, just nothing fancy. I'm going to cut it out. I'm actually going to, yes, I'm even fussy cutting this out. And I'm cutting around those paw prints. Now, again, my sentiment I stamped in black, which is okay. We can absolutely skip that part and change it. So once I have that fussy cut out, I'm going to grab one of my alcohol markers in black. This is one of my Prismacolors. And I'm going to color that in. No shading. Just going to go straight black. You know, nothing fancy here. There's no need to put shading onto the bottom of a paw. Now, you could have also colored the bottom of this paw pink as well. You didn't have to go with black. So you can choose any color. But now you can see my predicament because I stamped it in black. Well, I'm about to cover that over. So I'm going to remove my pencil lines, those that can be seen. And then I'm going, this is where I came up with the idea. You can see the finger going, aha, now I know what I'm going to do. So I'm taking the sentiment and I'm going to strategically place that right on top. And I'm going to put that back in my stamp positioning tool. And lift that up with the door. So now I know I have it in place. Make sure a magnet's there, making sure this doesn't shift at all. Now I'm going to come in with the pencil, draw the circle back in. I don't know why I did that, but you can see it's a process. It's a process, and I take the long way. And I'm going to color this all in. So I'm going right over my ink with my alcohol marker. I didn't see anything happen. I mean, I was able to just cover it. Now you can see I've got that little piece sticking out. That's fine. That's part of the sentiment. So that's going to get hit with my clear ink. So I'm going to use my Simon Says clear ink, stamp that down a couple times, and then I'm going to come in with my Recollections Snow, which is their name for their white, fine detail white powder, and I will heat set that. So now that's really going to stand out onto the little tiny paw that we created here. Again, make your own shapes. You know, if you don't have a die cutting machine, you don't need one. Cut your own shapes. You know, get that craft knife, get that pair of scissors, and start creating your own shapes, whether they're squares, they're circles, they're ovals, they're triangles, or whether it's a paw print. I'm just going to use my scissors just to even it up because, of course, my eyeballs are seeing that it's not even. So I must make that even. It's, you know, the OCD in me. Gotta have that. And then that is our sentiment, and we're going to stick that right down on the edge. I am going to put some vintage photo around that, and I will prop this up using some double-sided foam tape. I will use my microfiber cloth just to clean off that emboss or anti-static powder that I have. And then once we prop that, now I put double-sided foam tape across the whole thing. Now I could have just put it on the bottom of it and then it would have been just a little bit more even, but I'm good with the dimension. You know, I like it. I love dimension. I'm going to come in with my Spectrum Noir Clear Sparkle pen. This is my favorite out of all the sparkle pens, and I'm just going over the pads of the paw, which gives it just a little bit of shimmer. You could also add it to the corners and wherever you would like that to sit. So I hope you enjoyed this. Again, our puppers can send cards to, just think about it. So I do hope you enjoyed day 16. I know I did. I'm having so much fun. I hope you're enjoying the series. I hope I'm giving you some tips and tricks, finding new ways to dig into your stash, and to find new ways to revitalize the life into what already items you have in there. As always, the products, if they're still available, will be linked down below for you to check out if you are curious. If you have any questions, make sure you leave those down below, and I will respond to the questions as quickly as possible. I've got a lot of questions coming through, so I'm slowly getting through those. Smile every day. Laugh a little bit. Continue to stay safe and healthy through our journey that we're going to get through together. But remember what's most important to me. Just a little bit every day. Always be creative. Till next time, guys. Take care.